Good morning, friends. So, today, I'm actually going to be doing something quite special. So, I've got a friend of mine who's just coming to the country to visit, and he would like to take a tour of some of the very, how should I say this? Some very specific landmarks around Port Moresby. So, I guess we're doing another vlog. Let's go. So, a few weeks back, I reached out to someone on Twitter who's making a podcast called Statecraftiness with the University of Adelaide, and he was looking for some vox pops of the South Pacific, specifically of Papua New Guinea. Little did I know that he was actually a big fan of my YouTube channel. This guy's name is Gordon Peake. He's a writer and a podcaster, and he was making his way down to Port Moresby pretty soon, and so he asked me to tour him around the city to check out some specific places. So, Gordon, we are, where are we? Passing Murray Barracks, going the 2-mile route to town for our first stop at APEC House. On the way there, we drove through Koki. As the constituency of Justin Chichenko, Foreign Minister of Papua New Guinea, we wanted to see how the PNG gardener himself was handling things. Justin is a former Australian, now Papua New Guinean citizen, who made his name and living creating a gardening business called the PNG Gardener. Previously, he used to grow plants, and now he tries to grow international relations as Foreign Minister of Papua New Guinea. So Joey, where exactly are we? Of course.
So this is the Foreign Minister's electorate.
Pretty much. Essentially, yes.
This is where I grew up.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Okay guys, so this is Gordon Peake, and we actually met on YouTube, of all places. I mean, it makes sense, you know, because of the stuff that I do. And he's been quite a fan of the stuff that I've made.
And you're very surprised that I've been a fan of the stuff you made. But it's absolutely terrific.
Yeah.
It's great, and I think what I love the documentaries you've been making about Moresby, because I think they're so warm.
That's a big word.
It's a big word.
Sorry.
But they're so warm-hearted, and they so much show, I think, the life in the city, but also the kind of good sides and the bad sides. And I thought you'd be terrific for this documentary and this little project that we're working on, which is about statecraft. So statecraft's one of those words you think,
yeah.
What does that actually mean?
Sounds like a video game, actually.
Sounds like a video.
First time I heard it.
Sounds like a video. Maybe World of Warcraft could be a sort of type of thing. But statecraft is the sort of phrase that's used for the strategies that countries or governments use to try to influence other countries. And I've been coming back and forth to PNG for 15, 20 years now. And I've looked at every day when I'm staying in a hotel, I get to read the newspaper. And I get to look at the newspaper headlines. And almost each and every day, there's a headline that talks about something that one country is doing in PNG. And they always have the same sorts of things. You know, Australia supporting the PNG Defence Force, or Australia doing a project about health or education. And the project really is, in a sense, is kind of looking at this and saying, okay, we've seen the headlines in the paper. I've got a few of the papers here. But what actually happens after the paper is weathered? What actually happens after the banner is put away? And what I thought would be a cool thing for us to do would be to kind of just drive around Port Moresby and get to look at some of these sites of statecraft.
Yeah.
And maybe compare and contrast some of the documentary footage that we find, some of the things we've read in the newspaper, and see what reality is like. I think it's going to be good reality in some ways, bad reality in some ways, but it's definitely going to be a different reality to the reality that we read about in the Post Courier.
Absolutely.
Every day.
So as the first site of statecraft that we're visiting for today's project, we are behind at the side, we are at the APEC House at Ella Beach to see how it's going so far. Yeah.
Yeah, and what is APEC? What was APEC?
Oh gosh, well, okay. During 2018, as someone who, let's just say, wasn't the most well-informed person, I don't think I can give the most accurate description of what APEC is.
Were you not reading the Post Courier at the time?
I mean, no, I was a child back then, just not really interested in the country. But what I can say is during that time, what APEC did mean to me as a citizen living here, things were just going crazy, and it was a little bit unsafe going outside, so I tried to stay indoors as much as I can. And that's what it meant to me personally at that time when APEC was happening and when this site of Statecraft was built.
And let's think of all the people that would have been in this building in 2018. So you would have had Scott Morrison, the Australian Prime Minister, Mike Pence, the US Vice President, Justin Trudeau, Jacinda Ardern. You had the Japanese Prime Minister. You had basically leaders from all over the Asia Pacific region that came here. So I think it'd be really interesting if we to take a look around and see if we can see any other ghosts or see if they haunt the building in any way.
And helping us out today, we've got Joey, who is the wheels for today's operation, and Clyde, who's coming along because he knows places and he looks a bit scary. And we definitely need someone like that for today's.
So we've got like team success, team 4.
Absolutely, 100%.
This is true partnership. You read a lot about partnership in Statecraft. This is true working together. So why don't we say like this would have been the place where all the leaders would have come in.
Is it even open right now to the public? Oh, it is. Open sesame, I guess. Planning day. Oh, this is what's happening today.
No, that's last week.
What? Oh, 25th to 27th. Oh. Sorry, we're just coming in to take a look at the place, if that's okay.
Yes, unfortunately, sometimes pictures are taken.
Totally understand.
Misconceptions, so we don't want
Totally understand.
Kind of thing here.
No problem.
Okay, so not surprised at all that didn't work. So we just we had our attempt to try and get in to take a look at the place, I guess. I was shut down pretty fast.
But we got to have a little look inside. Now we're outside at the sign. It's looking a little bit worn. But you've got Papua New Guinea and the island of New Guinea in the center, and not between that APEC. So it's 5 years since APEC. What do you guys remember of that time?
Nothing much.
Yeah.
I just remember like the roads being blocked off and there was like a big fuss about the Maseratis.
Oh yeah, those. They haven't been sold yet.
I know a lot of people had like part-time jobs during that time. Yeah. So they had some work to do. Like people on our street, like a lot of them became drivers and stuff.
Oh, nice.
But that was only for that period. But otherwise, I don't remember much of it back.
All right.
And was there kind of excitement? Was there excitement like, oh, the US Vice President's coming, oh, some Russians are coming, oh, New Zealand's coming?
I don't think so. We get more, people get more excited when the rugby players come. Yeah. We love our rugby.
Maybe that might be because they actually know who the rugby players are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming, not trying to be cynical.
There wasn't much of like, big fuss or excitement about it. They were just like, oh yes, some guys from overseas are coming for this APEC thing. Life goes on.
Yeah. And then they announced all these things at that time, like they were going to have this electricity partnership that the US was going to put in. Do you remember that? How's your electricity now?
Blackouts every day, but...
Every day?
Every day.
Has there like a single day gone by where you did not have a blackout?
Well, when I was in another country.
Oh. On the way to our next location, we passed these plaques that display images of visitors or important people, and we thought of an interesting question.
I've been traveling around Port Moresby, for like 10, 15 years, and there's in different parts of the city, there's these sort of photo plaques where they put together the Prime Minister of the day and the visiting dignitary that is visiting. Clyde, how many people do you remember on those plaques?
Probably Prince Charles, I think, and I think the Prime Minister, the Australian Prime Minister right now, Anthony Albanese, and also they put up pictures of people who died as well, like famous dignitaries and our MPs as well.
Hey, it's the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium.
He was here in Papua for nearly 40 years. He came as a young man and he left. He died in office.
Wow. An impressive man indeed. Way back when he practiced statecraft here for 40 years. Let's go see the legacy that he left behind. when we got to the cemetery, I have no idea why we thought this would be easy, but we're currently in search of the headstone or the grave of Sir Hubert Murray. And we have no idea where it is. We seriously spent a good 15 to 20 minutes walking around the place to find it, and even coming across this guy who was just as lost as we were.
So the last time I was here was 5 years ago, and I can vividly remember seeing his grave, because I even took a picture of it and I put it on a blog.
Nice. Wait a minute. You did this? Because that's the article that I read.
Yeah, I wrote it.
Gushing over articles aside, some of the boys who lived there finally actually spotted it and decided to take us there. Oh, thank you guys, thank you. Thank you guys, thank you. There we go. So, we've just spent a bit of time searching for the grave of Sir Hubert Murray, because we were quite curious about the stadium that we were driving around. We thought we'd come by here to take a look at what the state of the grave was in right now. Because, Gordon, you've seen the grave before and you've actually written about it, right?
So I've written about it. I've been here before 4 or 5 years ago, and we've spent 10 minutes chasing around trying to find the grave. And we couldn't have found the grave if we didn't find Ivor here, who brought us.
Thank you, bro.
Who brought us down here. Thank you, Ivor, for doing that. And this whole gravesite is where a lot of the British and a lot of the Australian colonists that came here are buried. And if you look around, you see a lot of kind of old names that are down here. If we go further down, you see the South Sea pastors that came here 100 years ago, 120 years ago.
Wow.
And Hubert Murray was a big deal. Back in the time, he was a colonial governor, and he was, I think, the longest serving colonial governor in the world.
In the world?
In the world, and throughout all the British colonies. He was the longest serving governor. And I was asking Ivor, does anyone come here to kind of go and see his grave anymore?
No.
And do you get taught about Hubert Murray in school?
You play like Hubert Murray, lo school number 2 or no? No.
Gee, I wonder why.
Before 80s, 70s, years.
Yeah.
Nowadays, by no one. Before time lo mi bla, school lo mi bla.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. Whenever Ivor was at school, Hubert Murray and the colonial period was talked about. But now, whenever these guys are at school, he's not mentioned anymore. And I think it's a pretty good kind of site of statecraft. Because here was a man who kind of controlled this whole territory for 34 years. So he died 83 years ago, and now largely forgotten. He's thought about in terms of the stadium.
That's it. He
but
lives on in name, that's all.
He lives on in name. And at the bottom of it, it says, "Si momentum quaeris circumspice." If you want a monument, look around you. So we look around, and what Hubert Murray's monument is in this cemetery around here. And in the
things he built and left
things he
behind,
built,
and the
and the
people that he
things he left behind.
inspired, I'm assuming, yeah. I mean, that's how I interpreted that.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful, those last
Yeah.
words. Is that about it, yeah?
I guess about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, honestly.
Thank you, number one bossman.
So after we'd seen the grave of Papua's first governor, we then made tracks for the Waigani government area to do some more observations on the sites of statecraft there.
So we're in Waigani, which is the kind of central government area. To the left is the Department of Lands and Physical Planning. Pretty impressive looking building. Just down from there is the Department of Health, and then it's the Department of Commerce and Industry. And then what's that behind us? Big sign, the Treasury. One of the most important sites in Papua New Guinea. Because when I used to work here as a government advisor, a lot of effort in the government was spent trying to get money out of Treasury. And I often think that people who used to work in the Treasury, their phones must have been ringing red hot all the time, because people were saying, "Oh, I've got a line, I've got a connection." Is that just my impression, or is that kind of reality? Lots of people spending time trying to get money out of Treasury.
Not just Treasury, but like when you work in a government department, you'll have people calling you a lot.
You're the most popular person around.
Yes, you have everyone and anyone's contact just because you're in a government department. I mean, it's not just treasury. I mean, where I used to work before, same place. You know, it's the same thing there. Even like immigration too.
It's supposed to get pretty stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also one of the sites really of kind of statecraft around here, because since 2019, Australia has put in $1.2 billion in loans and grants to Papua New Guinea. And that it might not have physically been put in here because so much of money actually doesn't physically exist, but that would have been the site whereby Australia would have transferred its money. Then beside it, there's this hotel, the Lamana Hotel. It's got this kind of Pablo Escobar meets Greco-Roman wrestling sort of vibe to it. It's also got this great place called the Gold Club. I'm a bit too old for the Gold Club. These guys are younger swingers than me.
I don't think you're too old for the Gold Club. I've seen older people there.
Yeah.
Older people than me.
Yeah.
The oldies bar. Yeah.
There's a bar specifically for old people, and I love it. So maybe I'm
that's
just
why I hang out. I like the bands that play there.
No, yeah, they're pretty good. They are. They're
Yeah.
fantastic. So we've just finished up our little link outside the Treasury and Finance building, and right now we're going to pick up some lunch from what is it called again, Joey? The Hall of Lamp Flaps? That's it. It's just the Hall of Lamp Flaps because everyone knows about the Hall of Lamp Flaps. Yeah. Gordon, do you like lamp flaps?
Okay, great. I love going to a restaurant that's called Notorious. Let's go check it out.
I'd say infamous more than notorious. It's a slightly better synonym, I'd say. But yeah, no, it's a great lamp flaps joint. It's fantastic. Yeah, do you like lamp flaps?
It's kind of like I'm not convinced about lamp flaps, but I'm prepared to go along for the ride.
Fair. Okay, fair. No, understandable.
Because when I used to live in Bougainville, the lamp flaps used to be frozen, kind of like flat solid, and they were like a brick. Like you had thrown a frozen lamp flap at someone in Bougainville, and you could have hit them over the head. So maybe I just haven't experienced a perfectly good lamp flap.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have a go at this one and see how you feel about it.
Let's go.
Yeah. So you've never been here?
I've never been here. But even that is kind of interesting because I think Moresby is kind of like two separate worlds in a way. There's this world where expatriates are, where people tend to live inside these kind of gated communities and sort of stick to themselves. And then there's places like the Hall of Lamp Flaps. I'd say most people here are actually engaged in statecraft or diplomacy or government activities here.
In one way or another.
One way or another.
For years, right? Like everybody comes here.
Like imagine all the big ass decisions that have been made just on the tops of cars eating lamp flaps.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing, right? That's so cool. That's so cool to just think about.
You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, oh, oh.
So right after lunch, we actually got wind of what had been happening over at the Stanley area that day. And so we decided to head over to see what was left. So I think one thing we haven't touched upon so far right now in this little adventure that we're having is that, I mean, from the outside looking in, I don't think people really have this understanding of just how expensive it is to live in this country. And I think as an example, behind me, if you can see, there's a bunch of people, or should I say, there's what remains of the... Joey, how many people did you see in that photo? Like hundreds, almost 1,000 at least? I don't know.
300, 400 people.
Yeah, and that's not even exaggerating it, honestly. Like, there was so many people out here queuing up for what is essentially walk-in interviews for the Stanley Hotel, which is right behind me. And I think on this little journey that we're having, if we're gonna talk about something like statecraft and its importance, I think that it really falls flat and it really doesn't carry much weight in a state or a nation or in a country where, you know, most, or if not a lot of its, how should I say, its people or its inhabitants just are still looking for work or are unemployed.
Yeah, I mean, we can use all these big words like statecraft and memorandum of understanding and development projects and development partners.
True, we throw those around a lot. Anyone who's read the Post-Career or the National, or any sort of, really legitimate media outlet would tell, I guess.
But the reality is this is a really human story, and we see that this morning whenever you see thousands of people, maybe not exaggerating, you'd say tens of thousands of people that were queuing up on the off chance that they would get positions at the Stanley Hotel, which is kind of ironic and also fitting in a way, because this is the place where almost all the meetings about statecraft are held. I mean, every day.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you read in the Post-Courier, there's a meeting at the Stanley Hotel, there's someone shaking their hand, there's someone signing something, there's something being launched. So something really ironic that we're missing in statecraft is the kind of human dilemma.
That's it. Yeah, no. That's why I'm glad we're kind of here to do this, just to capture it. I think it would definitely help with this adventure. Good statecraft really does boil down to how much a nation takes care of its population. Because at the end of the day, a state is only made up of regular people living day to day. And without that, a nation is literally nothing.
So we're kind of in Waigani, the government area, and we've been making this documentary, but also you've been working on our statecraftiness project, like going around, tootling around town and asking people, what do the words of statecraft mean?
That's
so how's that been? Have people given you clear answers, or is it one of those things which people using big words and not really sure what they mean?
Not particularly, actually. For specifically the question of statecraft, I wasn't really counting on anyone to really know what the word was or be familiar with it. So yeah, it wasn't so surprising that they didn't. It's actually quite comical to hear what they think the word is. A couple people said it was a video game, sounds like Warcraft, sounds like a movie or something. It was pretty funny. But then for what really did surprise me is that for some of the other answers, or for some of the other questions, specifically about the topics that I've been asking around financial management and governance programs and training workshops and all that.
Yeah, because 27% of Australia's aid program in Papua New Guinea involves governance programs. So we should, and it's been going on for a long time. So
that's it. And I mean, when you told me about that figure, I guess it gave me a lot more context to understand why. And this surprised me. So many people are very opinionated about that. They've got such long-winded answers about what they think these governance programs should be more of, whether or not they should continue, how they should be monitored or just checked about how would I say this, how effective they actually are. And the same with the financial management question that I asked them. Of course, it was a lot of responses that said mostly the same thing, like in the same vein that, let's say, they would disagree or agree with how well the government is actually spending its money and managing it. But they would also back that up by giving so many examples, and they would talk about it so much, and it was pretty, gosh, I hope I got my face, but it was just pretty eye-opening just to know that, and it was kind of hopeful, knowing that people are actually really quite opinionated about this.
Yeah,
they actually care.
Yeah.
It was pretty nice, yeah. And now as the day was winding down to a close, we made our way to our final stop, Independence Boulevard and the Parliament House, to take a look at these massive sites of statecraft, as well as some of the other smaller ones that were there too.
So all over Port Moresby there are signs like this, signs that are talking about partnership and cooperation between Papua New Guinea and between countries that are donating projects to PNG. We are at Independence Boulevard, which was the road project that was built by China in anticipation of APEC in 2018. So November 2018, President Xi Jinping came here, and on this very site there would have been hundreds, thousands of dignitaries that would have been cheering the opening of this road. We've got Clyde and Joey here. I just wanted to ask you guys, like you drive past signs like this here, but it's all over Moresby. There are signs like this for water projects, or for electricity projects, or for policing projects or defense projects. Like, what do you feel or what do you think whenever you see signs like this?
I always felt that, you put your mark on something that you own.
So yeah, that's how I feel about these signs.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a bit kind of try hard, which is a way, which is if you and I are working together and we're partners, I shouldn't really feel the need to advertise that or put up a sign saying Clyde and I are partners
Not at all.
and pictures of our respective flags together. There's something I think about these signs that kind of shows kind of insecurity in some ways. A sign that you've got to try to make your mark so that people don't forget you, because true partnerships, you don't actually have to advertise them.
Now, one of the ways in which you can achieve good statecraft is by reinventing old ideas and giving them a new look. And so, in honor of that, I decided to get a new haircut. And that was pretty much the end of our day. I thought that this entire little adventure was extremely insightful for me, and I cannot thank Gordon enough for reaching out and asking for help about this particular project. And as someone who isn't the most politically aware, but who is also trying every day to be more aware of it due to the current climate that we're in, it's really interesting to see just how much we still rely on other nations, considering we've been independent for technically like almost the last half century. I mean, do I expect more from our nation? Absolutely 100% yes, because I think it'd be pretty ignorant if I thought this place was beautiful and amazing while I was still able to see all of its faults. I can't say that I'm as optimistic as I was when I made that first vlog on Port Moresby 3 years ago, but I'd like to think that I'm a little bit more informed now that I've spent those last 3 years actually learning about it and how it works. But hey, that's just my opinion. I hope that this was at the very least informative for you. Thank you for watching, and I guess I'll see you in the next thing that I do. Whatever that may be. Ciao.